If you're watching this video, you've probably heard all the recent commotion concerning deep dives. And if you haven't heard, deep dives is a new activity that arrived in Season the Deep. And since day one, it honestly has confused a lot of us. Today though, we're going to be covering everything you need to know about deep dives and completely simplifying everything from the encounters, the rewards, the collectibles, meta builds to be using, as yes, the enemies here get extremely tough. Anything and everything you need will be in today's guide to help you succeed at this activity. Now, what are deep dives? Deep dives are a 3-man activity that you can find there at the helm, and you can either matchmake with other players or even queue in with a fire team or even solo. Now, deep dives have evolved week over week. During week 1, players could complete 1 level and fight a boss to complete the activity. Week 2, a 2nd level was added, and after completing both levels, players would fight a boss once more to complete the activity. Now, this was a different boss from the previous week because this activity is on a 3-week rotation, which brings us to this week, where everything changed. Deep dives now have 3 consecutive levels players will fight through to reach the final boss, with 3 levels before the boss fight instead of 1 like the first week. The activity lasts much longer, we're talking like 20 plus minutes, but the trade-off is you can receive higher tier rewards if you complete a challenge on each level. However, before we talk about the challenges, let's walk through the activity opening, starting with bonuses. You spawn in, and mentioned in our previous guide, you're going to be met with 2 floating black orbs. These are gifts from Asa. Now, each orb will contain an intrinsic bonus. Each player gets to decide which bonus they want, and if you have trouble choosing, when you approach an orb, notification will appear at the bottom of your screen that describes the bonus in detail. Now, you will encounter 3 of these bonus selections throughout the activity, 1 before each level, and they can make a big difference here, guys, depending on your build. Now, whatever bonus you select will persist throughout the entire activity. This is not a make or break decision, but if you're utilizing your weapons, obviously you want to use one of these nodes that buffs your weapon damage. And if you're utilizing, say, your neutral game abilities, then pick a node that dips into that. Now, once you choose a bonus, you'll then descend through the ocean. Nothing too difficult here, guys. You've got oxygen bubbles. There'll be several points where a door will need to be opened to progress forward, which a lever will be required to activate, which you can actually hear for on its sound cues. Now, if you don't care about the extra rewards and just want to run the activity stress-free, you can essentially just run the entire thing, plant the egregore resonator in each room, and then kill ads until you reach the boss and finish the activity. However, if you want to make this activity worth your while, you'll want to activate pressure trials. Now, what are pressure trials? After entering a level and placing an egregore resonator, there will be a taken orb floating near the entrance. Now, there are multiple spawn locations for these taken orbs, so you have to look around for a minute. Once you locate the orb, every member of your fire team must interact with it to initiate the pressure trial. Again, every member. It's very easy for one person to forget, miss out on this, and you'll know all players have actually activated the trial when you receive text saying the darkness awaits your invocation. A timer will also appear on the left side of your screen. This is how long you have to complete the level, and if you fail, you'll be teleported to the boss room immediately and will not receive maximum rewards for the activity. Now, do not be deceived. These challenges have multiple steps and waves, and the timer that began counting down at the beginning of the level will not reset when you complete each objective. Whatever time remains is how long you have to finish, which means there is 0 time to waste, and you must complete the pressure trial quickly to win. Now, what are the differences between each level? Now, from our understanding, pressure trials are randomly selected on each level, which means no deep dive run will be the same each time. Each level will also add additional modifiers, making it harder than the last. And those modifiers are fixed and only change each weekly reset. Now, visiting the director node for the deep dive activity, we see 3 modifiers present. Togetherness, which reduces health regeneration unless you are nearby members of your fire team, in which your health regeneration is increased. This modifier is activated immediately at level 1, also called Twilight Depth. Now, Famine reduces all ammunition drops. This activates at level 2, also called Midnight Depth. And Arc Threat increases all incoming arc damage by 25%. This modifier is activated at level 3, the Abyss Depth. Now, the Deep Dive info tab also states that the power level on each level of the deep dive is fixed. Each level increases the power level of the enemies you are fighting. Usually, the increase in power would be noted by a modifier in-game. However, we checked and never were given the exact increase per level. Just know that the more levels you do, the harder it gets, and substantially so, guys. And you receive 0 benefit for playing this activity above 1810. Now, since pressure trial objectives are essentially random, we don't know if we try them all, but we will share a short description on how to complete each one that we encounter. Granted, if we missed a few, feel free to let us know. Now, it should be noted, after invoking the darkness from a taken orb, there will also be a second smaller objective you need to complete, which is not displayed on the hut. The 3 we encountered were excising pressurized plates. These are actually completed by finding glowing pools scattered around the level and standing in them until the blind dissipates. Something my Twitch stream earlier reminded me over and over how I completely miss, hence why we're making this guide. Next, we have these shooting taking blights, which are on the ground, also scattered around the map. There will be an orb surrounded by a sphere that deals AoE damage when you stand inside of its radius. You must stand inside or on top of this blight to destroy it. Now, shooting taken blights, these are in the air. High above the ground will be taken blights you can just shoot and destroy. Now, all of these don't require much effort. The main thing is just don't forget about them, which is easy to do amongst all the ads that are constantly pouring out at you. And it's also easy to forget about all this considering you're going to be focused on the main objective, which takes us to the different main objectives and pressure trials. You have clear combatants and collect fossilized coral, where major combatants will spawn next to pieces of this black fossilized coral. Kill them to collect the coral. You also have defend egregore drills, where 2 drills actually will spawn, and your job is to defend both of these drills from waves of combatants. You also have the drill egregore vein and refuel the drill, where you deliver fuel cells to an egregore drill to keep it operational, and refit the extractor's power cells and repair and reboot the extractor. Now, similar to the last trial, you deliver power cells or wrenches to the extractor. You also have the defend and reclaim vanguard machinery, and the objective here is there will be 4 consoles spread across the map. You can only activate and defend 1 console at a time, but essentially defending all of them will complete this. There's also the lure out and extinguish the coral siphoner, where you defeat majors to lure out a mini boss, and clear hostiles to defeat powerful combatants, which is very straightforward, guys. Just kill all the enemies and high-end targets. Now, I do want to drop some tips on you guys and mechanics to watch out for as you complete each level. First up, killing wrathful predators will grant you plus 15 seconds to your timer. So if any spawn in while you're completing your objectives and you need a little more time, take them out to increase your time. Now, under your seasonal challenges, you'll also find a bonus that requires you to complete level 3 Abyss. Once unlocked, it will spawn a special and heavy ammo crate on each level. Now, your radar is disabled for the entire duration of the activity, so they are difficult to find, but it comes in very handy considering that famine modifier is kicked in, and it gives you plus 15 seconds to your timer, so keep your eyes open for it. Which takes us to our bosses. After completing the 3rd floor, Asa will present you with a final gift. She will empower you, refreshing your ammo and abilities, increasing your ammo reserves by 50%, and reducing incoming elemental damage by 10%. Now, this week, the boss is actually a reskin version of Malak from back in D1, but it's actually Kelgarath, who we fought and beaten again and again and again since Season of the Lost. I highly recommend a weapon that deals precision damage though, as his crit spot is very easy to hit. Keep in mind though, guys, he will absolutely wreck you, spawning in taking hobgoblin tracers and AoE fire attacks, so be very cautious of those. Now, when fighting the wizard Kutazad in future weeks, I'd also recommend precision damage. In the servitor Jaw, you can honestly go either way. He is quite beefy though, so rockets, grenade launchers, those would work just fine. Now, as far as builds go, I do want to go over what we utilize and what worked well for us, because again, this activity does get extremely difficult when up in these tiers. Solar Hammer Titans, Warlocks, you guys are really going to shine here just for the healing alone. Survivability, ad clearing, and speed are your top priorities. Art Warlocks with Arc Souls and Healing Rifts should also be really good here. Hunters, I've got to recommend Void the most, just simply for that invis and that tether, locking down those ads. There's so many situations where you can get trapped that just being able to go invisible and dip to then re-peak once you've regenerated is huge. Now, another build we tried firsthand and highly recommend is our Pacific Winter Warlock build. Constant finishers, weekend invis. It came in clutch several times and made clearing out groups of ads a breeze. We'll actually have a link to our video in the description if you want to check out that build. It's very potent though, guys. Now, collectibles. There are 6 collectible plants and flora in this activity that once collected will appear in your Helm Aquarium and unlock an exotic ghost shell. Now, there are 2 before each level in the underwater traversal areas, and when we collected these, a majority of them were invisible, and we only knew where to look because of a faint glow from where the plants were supposed to be. So instead of telling you, we're just gonna let the footage roll out here, guys. Again, there's timestamps down below if you already collected these, so feel free to skip ahead to the next segment of this guide. Now for the reason why you want to even complete deep dives in the first place. Exotics and red borders. We ran tier 7 deep dives multiple times from start to finish, which takes approximately 25 to 30 minutes to complete. Now, it's a long activity, and if you complete it on tier 7, there will be 2 chests waiting for you once you kill the final boss, and both of these chests require a deep dive key to open. Now, lower tiers will only offer 1 deep dive chest and another regular chest. The regular chest will not require a deep dive key, so keep in mind, guys, the tier 7 tier are going to require 2 keys. Now, we opened the tier 7 chest multiple times, and our results range from either an exotic and a deep side drop from a single run to, well, nothing. That's right, 30 minutes and 2 keys later, and only a crappy piece of armor to show for it. That is punishing, considering the investment. And deep dive keys are not easy to get. They cap out in your inventory, which means you have to get more in order to farm tier 7 deep dives. Luckily, though, there exists a Shadow Throne farm for deep dive keys. Feel free to check out our seasonal guide, which explains just how to do so. But it does beg the question, is this really worth your time? Personally, if you're trying to farm for exotics, I think that Grandmaster Nightfalls are still your best bet unless you're actually targeting a specific exotic. And in that case, just go for lost sectors, or of course, just do exotic focusing. Granted, Bungie seems to disable it left and right, so hopefully it's going to be up and stay up. But if you are looking for seasonal red borders, then most definitely farm deep dives. And with the right builds, they are without a doubt easier than Grandmaster Nightfalls. And this is honestly the best route to getting those red borders, and you can wrap them up very quickly, especially on higher tiers, as you can burn 2 keys at a time. Granted, if you're looking to just farm exotics and materials, I still believe Grandmaster Nightfalls are the better investment, considering we have things like double loot and Grandmaster Nightfalls. Hell, some of the Nightfalls we can get sub 10-minute runs. By the way, Grandmaster Nightfalls are launching next week. I know they're harder content, but for the most part, if you got the right build and a good squad, you can chew through those Grandmasters easily. And if you don't need to farm any of the red border weapons, maybe you've already knocked all of this out, well, hell, guys, there really isn't any point. Deep dives are really only worth your time if you have the keys, as it's a place to spend them, and if you're specifically trying to get red borders. With that being said, though, I do find the activity to be fun. It just happens to be very long at tier 7. Now, will this tie into our future exotic? I've been putting on my title for the past 2 weeks now when we go live on Tuesdays, as we're live every weekly reset, new exotic question mark. And that's simply because a week and a half ago, it was leaked that a new exotic would be dropping in week 2. That was not the case. And week 3 has rolled around, and we still do not have this secret exotic. Now, spoilers, I'm gonna tell you what the exotic is. It's a scout rifle. We don't really know when it will arrive. It's speculated that it's gonna arrive in week 10, but it could also arrive at any week from now until then. Needless to say, we will be checking every week at reset, and I will most likely have the same title, new exotic, with a question mark being added for every week we do not have this thing drop. Am I clickbaiting? Probably. But the one week we don't say it, it's probably gonna drop. Now, what we do know is that all deep dive levels have been unlocked via achievements on the Triumph page, but there are still more secret achievements that we don't know how to complete for deep dives. And there's also thrall statues in the activity that we can't interact with yet. And most likely, these will be tied to the new exotic. Deep dives is looking to be an exotic mission for this season. And I'm not really sure how it's gonna branch out, but at the very least, guys, I would definitely take some time to just get familiar with this activity. Personally, I prefer exotic missions to be something completely separate, but based on what we know in the current database, it appears that the exotic scout rifle will be tied to deep dives in some way. So guys, that is our guide there for deep dives and how to get those upper tiers. Let me know in the comments below if we missed anything. And by the way, we are live every single day, just about, playing this game. I know, we put up some Diablo content. Everybody's like, Cross, how could you quit Destiny? Fellas, we haven't quit, man. We played one other game for like 2 days. But if you want to tune in to see when this exotic drops, again, every Tuesday at reset, we are live over at twitch.tv/Aztecross, so feel free to come join us. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.